So we have this progression is what we're saying. And so what she says here is that Hegel's philosophy is a form of historicism. This is the doctrine that all ideas are products of historical forces, that what is true, with quotes there, at one stage of history will give way to a higher truth at the next stage, right? And so we're looking at the background here of postmodernism, the ideas here. In essence, Hegel surveyed all the conflicting philosophies and worldviews, all the competing religious claims, all the warring camps and cultures, and proposed to overcome the strife by treating each one as a partial and relative truth in the upward progression of the mind, the evolution of consciousness, right? So what is the logical flaw in historicism, she says? Well, it's self-refuting, right? The claim that every idea is partial and a relative truth must include its own claim, right? Like every other evolving idea, it is relative to its own moment in history and therefore not true in any trans-historical sense, right? It doesn't go any further than Hegel's time. Sorry, Hegel, your own idea kind of refutes what you're trying to say.
Yeah, even within concepts like philosophy of law, you have this kind of understanding of there's this overarching capital L law that exists out there, and we as individuals, as political agents, are trying to always find what the law is and how it makes sense and how it relates to us at this time in this place, and then it changes, and so it must change because humanity changes and it's a product of its time. So, the law wasn't wrong back then. We just changed it. And so that at least, especially in constitutional law, you have those who are kind of the back to the sources. What did the words mean for those people at those time? And then you have the people that just kind of believe in this transitory, just it must change with the time, and so the words that we read, we don't have to go back and rewrite. We just interpret it based on where we're at today, and because we are those who reach out and touch the law somehow, esoterically, then people have to believe us, and we get into the great system that we have today.
And so she says, how does Hegel then avoid this devastating conclusion? Well, he tacitly exempts himself, right? He wrote as though he alone was mysteriously able to rise above the evolutionary process, as though he alone was capable of objective, timeless, complete view of the entire historical process. Just he could see. He was the guy who was on the mountain, right?
Again, wanting to put everything in the box. And what jumped out of the box? Hegel.
Yeah.
He just hopped out. He's like, that was good. I've got it all packed down. I just need to exit, and you're all good.
That's right. So she says, of course, by making an exception for himself, Hegel implies that there was one thing that his system did not cover, namely his own thinking. And as you mentioned, his thinking jumps out of the box, right? And in this way, he introduced a logical inconsistency in the system. And so we'll talk about this issue of worldviews and, committing these logical inconsistencies in principle number 4. So I guess we'll have to wait to get into that a little further.
That's all right.